welcome to our Captain's Corner. And throughout the cruise, you always kind of build up these questions in your head about things, about how life is like to live and work on a cruise ship, technical questions about engine and propulsion and bridge officers and all that fun stuff. And we're going to have the expert to answer those questions for you today. The way it's going to work is we have our entertainment activity staff. They're going to be walking around the room with a microphone. If you have a question, raise your hand. They will come over to you with the microphone. You ask your question, and then our captain will try to answer to the best of his ability. This is going to go until about 11 o'clock this morning, because then we're going to have to head out to the Royal Promenade for our Veterans Tribute and our Salute to Heroes. So we hope to see everyone there for that. Well, without further ado, it is time to introduce the captain, the master of the vessel. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Captain Marshall!
Well, good morning. A little AC/DC to wake you all up there. Why not, huh? Everyone having a good time so far in Harmony? Yeah! All right. Wait, that's good, that's good. That was kind of a test there, a litmus test to see who's awake. So I am Captain Marshall. This is something I really do genuinely look forward to each and every week. I get an opportunity to come down here and see what you're all thinking about throughout the whole week. I'm sure some of you have cruised many times, maybe seen something different. Some of you haven't cruised before and are wondering, what the heck, how does this whole thing operate? And that's what I'm here to do. So my guarantee is this: I'll provide you an answer. How about that? Okay? That's my guarantee. I'll give you an answer. We turned off the internet. Google shut down, so you can't fact check me. There might be some fake news. That's the disclaimer, folks. But we're going to have a whole lot of fun. Anything's on the table that you want to ask? Okay, of course, we're appropriate. I'm going to just preempt a little bit here with some of the information that comes up time and time again, because I really want to get a little weird here and figure out what's on your mind. Dig deep into those brains of yours. When you get the microphone, I just respectfully ask that you tell me your name, where you're from, so it's more personable, your social insurance and bank account numbers. I have a teenager who's going to university next year, so of course, just your name, where you're from, so we know who we all are here and have a good time. So let's kick it off. It all began in Toronto, Canada. That's where I was born. Yeah, some of you might have known from my out and about and my Canadian Tourette's, I call it. And I was a little bit of an oddball as a kid growing up. As a young boy, a teenage boy, I always wanted to become a professional hockey player. So that's, so it's a little bit different. There's not too many Canadian kids who want to do that. I'm joking, 100% typical. I wanted to be a hockey player. I was playing hockey in the Metro Toronto Hockey League at the time, and my goals were set on becoming an NHL hockey player. Unfortunately, I'm standing here on the stage. That means I didn't make it. But my phone is on, and my hopes still remain high. So if the Dallas Stars need a little bit of help, I just might have to take that call. So I played defense. I'm 5'9". That wasn't going to cut it, and I blame it only on my height. Okay, moving on. 18 years old. Here I am finishing high school and figuring out what am I going to do with the rest of my life, because all my chips were on red, and I wanted to play in the NHL. When I wasn't playing hockey, I was spending my summers up in the Muskoka area. And there is beautiful lake country, and I worked at a marina, and I absolutely loved that job. Really look forward to being up there during the summer, working on outboard engines, pumping gas, had a boat myself, spending time in the water, fishing, flirting with the girls, and all that fun stuff that you do out on the water, huh? So I figured, if there's something I'm going to do for the rest of my life, it might as well be something that I love. So I applied to the Canadian Coast Guard when I graduated from high school. And great opportunity, they were going to take care of all my schooling and everything like that. And when I applied, opportunities were endless there. And as the applications came in, funding was lost for the program, and they shut down the entire program that year. Yeah, so the door closed pretty quick. The NHL was still not calling. So I didn't give up there. I continued east in Canada, and I went to the island called St. John, Newfoundland. And I studied in St. John's under Memorial University's program called Nautical Science through the Marine Institute. So that's a 4-year program. And that program allows you to exit with your first license to be a bridge officer. During the 4-year program, you spend 1 year at sea. And my first ship I joined in Quebec City, and it was a self-unloader, is what they call it. So it was carrying bulk cargo. We were carrying coal. And a self-unloader just means it has a big conveyor belt on it and a boom, and it's able to discharge in any port. It doesn't need any port infrastructure to discharge the ship. We took that ship from Quebec City all the way through the St. Lawrence River, up through the Great Lakes, all the way to Thunder Bay in January. Now everyone says you're Canadian, you can handle the cold. No, just because you're Canadian doesn't mean you can handle the cold. It means you've been cold before. It doesn't mean you like it. So when we got into Lake Superior, which is a massive lake, it was blowing a gale, as it would be, and we had sea spray going on the ship. So as the ship's transiting through the water, and when it's that cold, that water that sprays over the ship freezes, creates ice, and ice builds up, and that can endanger the stability of the ship. So it's the job of the sailors on board, the able-bodied seamen, ordinary seamen, myself as a cadet, to go and bang with a wooden mallet the steel and knock all the ice off. So there the captain gave me my little mallet, and I walked up to the forecastle, the front of the ship, and I was hammering this, and it felt like hours. It's a fish story, folks. It was like this big. Now after the years, it's getting bigger and bigger. But I still remember the feeling. And we were hammering the ice off of the windlass, off the railings. We come in for a coffee, and my hands were so numb. So numb. I'm not sure if it was from the cold or the vibrations of just beating on steel with a wooden mallet for hours on end. Needless to say, I didn't like my choice. I didn't enjoy my first ship at sea. I thought, what have I done here? However, my father did instill one very key trait, and he said, if you start something, you're going to finish it. So I started this program, and I was in full intention of completing the program. Now, when we're in school, we are taught by former captains, or some active captains. They come in and teach the different subjects that we're learning. Every single captain had the same piece of advice for us cadets while I was in school. Whatever you do, if you can land a job in the oil and gas, take it. That is the best industry to be in. It's the best paying, the best contracts, the best pensions, and you'll have a job for life. So there I was, my second ship that I joined was an oil tanker. I was tickled pink. There I was in Dartmouth, which is Halifax Bay. So on the other side of Halifax Bay is Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And working for Imperial Oil on a product carrier going up and down the eastern seaboard. It was perfect. I was a tanker man through and through. That's what I wanted to do for my life. I listened to the teachers, and I fell in love with seafaring. That was cemented. So why am I standing here on a stage on a cruise ship? Well, before I tell you that, I want to let you know the other piece of advice that all of the captains gave us, our instructors. They said, work in the oil and gas industry, and whatever you do not work on a cruise ship. And of course, we question everything as young students. Why? Why work in oil and gas and not on a cruise ship? And the answer was, because the cargo can talk back to you. And I'm here to say that they were not wrong. The cargo can talk back to you. However, everything's about perception. For me, that's something that I thoroughly enjoy, and as part of my job satisfaction, is speaking with the cargo. When you talk to the oil, you kind of get sent to the funny farm. So why am I here on a cruise ship? Just like every good story out there in Hollywood, wherever you're watching movies, there was a girl. So in my class was Lauriane Lacroix. She was also going on the coal ships and having a horrible time. She also went to the oil tankers. She also had a horrible time there as well. For a female in the industry, it was not the same as a male in the industry. The marine industry was lagging a little bit with the times. This was in 2004, and she was on the brink of leaving the entire program. But Royal Caribbean was in our school, and they were actively seeking women in the industry to get female bridge officers and provide this opportunity. So she jumped on that opportunity. She was pretty, and I followed her to Royal Caribbean. That's exactly why I'm here. It's true, yeah. Turns out, and she's not here, she was here a few weeks ago, but she loves it when I say this. She was right. It was a good idea. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but as an 18-year-old at the time, I didn't think that was the best decision, listening to the advice of all of our captains. Anyways, I joined Royal Caribbean in November 2004, and we continued dating. She was working on Explorer of the Seas, I was working on Majesty of the Seas, and we were working opposite contracts. So when I was off, I had the opportunity to go and sail with her, and vice versa. They have a picture of Harmony and Majesty here. So here's perspective, folks. I think we tend to forget that there's Majesty of the Seas on the right, and that's Harmony of the Seas on the left there. So my times have changed through 20 years now. Majesty of the Seas is near and dear to my heart because it was also the ship that I proposed to my wife on. In Nassau, we went ashore, and I bought at Colombian Emeralds her engagement ring. And then as the ship was sailing out of Nassau, on the stern of Majesty of the Seas is where I proposed to her, and she said yes. So we've been married now for 18 years. So it was interesting, we were able to save a lot of money because our expenses were pretty much nothing. We were always on one of the Royal Caribbean ships. She transferred over to Navigator, Monarch, and I went from Majesty to Vision of the Seas, spent a lot of time in Alaska with Vision and Radiance of the Seas is where I got promoted to First Officer and Chief Officer Safety. And during this time, we continued to build our lives together. We had our first child in 2007, Braden, our firstborn son, and he would sail with us, and I would be Mr. Mom, pushing the stroller around while she was working, and vice versa. Then we had our second child, Colton, in 2010, and when Braden was then turning 5, my wife went on Liberty of the Seas, and Liberty was over in Europe at that time. For whatever reason, we couldn't afford to fly over there, and I decided I would stay home. We had just recently purchased our first home, so getting settled and everything like that while my wife went away to sea. She came back after 10 weeks away and said, I can never do this again. As much as I love going to sea, I can't be apart from my boys. There's just that bond between mother and son. And after 10 weeks of being at home with 2 toddlers, I raised my hand as a man and I said, honey, I am willing to go to sea. No problem. So that's the sacrifice that I am bearing for the betterment of my family, you know? What that did for us is cemented an understanding of each other's emotions. So when I'm away at sea like I am now, and my kids are going through exams, and my wife's at home dealing with the stress of home, I can explain to her the stress of not finding sunshine for you fine folks for the last 6 days, and trying to run a cruise ship, and she understands what I'm talking about, the emotions, and vice versa. I understand when she tells me, I'm going to kill these boys, your boys. Whenever it's bad, they're my kids. And it's really allowed us to live this lifestyle because it's a little bit of an oddball lifestyle. It's not your typical, 9 to 5 off on the weekends and stuff like that. But it's been an absolutely amazing journey. In 2012, I got asked to go to Oasis of the Seas. So during that time, Oasis and Allure were fairly new. That was a big stepping stone in my career because it put me on the Oasis class ships. And it's there that I got promoted to staff captain. The staff captain is the second in command of the ship. So I had gone through all the licensing at that time. I had my Master Mariner license, and that was a proud moment. Then in 2015, the company called me and said, will you go to France? We're going to build this new ship there. And we haven't built ships in France in a while. I think they thought I spoke French, but to their dismay. I understand when I'm in trouble. That's about it. Anyways, it was the Harmony of the Seas. So I respectfully went to my wife and said, I'm going to go and take this opportunity. I really want to be involved with this project. She said, please go ahead. I spent 5 months in France while the ship was finishing the building phase and into the delivery phase of this wonderful ship here. So I literally have blood, sweat, and tears in the hall of Harmony of the Seas. As you can tell, I have 2 boys. I never figured out the formula for a girl, so Harmony is my baby girl. Yeah, that's what I call her. I got promoted to captain in June of 2022, and that was on Independence of the Seas. That was a great opportunity. Great for a ship, but I was only there for 1 contract because, again, I was on vacation. The company said, will you come back early? We want you to go to Harmony of the Seas. I think before they hung up, I was on board. I said, absolutely. It's just, I still pinch myself about how blessed I am to have this opportunity. So I've been captain since 2022, and I've been on Harmony. I joined Harmony December of 2022. And just, again, I don't want to say it too loud because they might figure out that I'm here. I like to fly under the radar here, but I thoroughly do enjoy being here with this ship. It's not just about the ship, but there's something special about Harmony. Maybe you've experienced it, and it has 100% everything to do with the crew who are on here. They have the same respect and admiration for the ship, for its cargo, and I hope they've delivered a wonderful experience for you all. How has the crew been for you? If you have a couple issues, the hotel director will be here at the end and you can just talk to him. He deals with the problems, yes? So that's my journey, folks. I hope that's answered some of the normal questions. So like I said, our cruise staff are here. They'll come around with the microphone, raise your hand, and let's get into it.
All right, we have one here.
All right.
Hi, Dennis from St. Louis, USA. Thanks for being our captain.
You're welcome.
Quick question for you. Many of us know that your cabin is literally attached to the bridge by 1 door. And I'm sure you have off times, but is it tempting for people just to come and knock on that door all the time, or do you tell people, look, stay away, I'm watching a movie?
Yeah, downtime. It's a very good question. Thank you for asking. It's a challenge, not just for myself, but for all the crews. We live, work, sleep, eat, play in the same location all the time, and you have to be disciplined. And through my years with Royal Caribbean, I've tried different methods to kind of take a break, so to say, because the job can be ever consuming, and it will continue to take as much as you give, so it's very important. So have you noticed in the elevators there's no 13?
Yeah.
That's my deck. That's right. No, I'm on deck number 12 on the starboard side, and I'm right behind the bridge, and my office is attached to my room, and the office is connected to the bridge. So I don't get too many visitors. Most of it is from bridge operation. That's the primary focus of my duties on a day-to-day basis. But I don't just honk the horn and dock the ship. I wish, but I'm also the CEO of the company, of Harmony of the Seas. So everything that's happening, I have department heads, Alistair, the hotel director, Nick Shea, the chief engineer, and Anton, the staff captain. Those 3 department heads are reporting to me on any issues, and of course tracking the performance of the ship in their various departments as well. So how do I kind of escape? I have taken on a few recreational activities. One is the flow rider. Yeah, I do. I really enjoy the flow rider. I can only go for about half an hour until the old body gets a little worn out, but I do my best on the flow. The reason I enjoy the flow rider is because it's called flow rider face. If you go out there and you watch people, they'll be the happiest animated people as soon as they're on the board. 100% focused, right? And it's true, you have to focus until you're extremely good, as some of the other people here in the room are, but you have to focus on not falling and standing up and finding your center of balance. And it just turns my brain off of everything else. The other activity that I do is, especially in these ports that call Cozumel, Roatan, I love to scuba dive. So I'll go out and do scuba diving, same thing. I go under the water, they can't call me, which is fantastic. And it's just very calming to the mind. And I think it's very important. It's something that we work really hard with the crew to remind them that they have to take a break and they have to disassociate from the ship, go ashore, and they have those opportunities, or spend some time with friends doing something other than just working, eating, and sleeping all the time. Thank you. Great question. There we go.
My name is Paul from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm a cheddarhead.
All right.
And I was asked to ask you this question by Hannah.
Okay.
She wants to know who's driving the boat.
Oh, okay. Right now it's Alexa. Yeah. So just like it's Alexa. It's an app. Alexa, go to Galveston. I have a package that's going to be there. No, of course, a lot of people think that it's highly automated. We do have some of the best technology in the industry, and it's one of the great things that all those captains who taught me in school forgot to mention. They talked about the cargo, but not about the opportunities. Royal Caribbean gives us the best toys. We get to play with the cool stuff. So we have the latest technology on board. When the ship is in the middle of the Gulf right now, we are using autopilot. We're even using an autopilot that is incorporated into a computer, and it's making all the adjustments for us. And the bridge officers who are up there are monitoring the systems. And it's a very simple formula on how we use automation. As the risk increases, the automation decreases. So if we have more traffic, we're closer to land, there's bad weather, then we remove the level of reliance on the automation. When we dock the ship, it's 100% manual. If you want to show the AZIPods up here, you can kind of get a sense on what we're manipulating. So about 110,000 horsepower here on the stern of these three AZIPods. I'm sorry, there's a little Tim Allen in me there, but that's a lot of horsepower, folks. Yeah, we're doing good. So these are AZIPods. These are at the back of the ship. And what these are doing for us is, it's not like a conventional ship with a rudder and a propeller, right? We're turning the propeller, and the propeller has a surface area, so it also acts as a rudder for us. And there's one controller for each one of these. And if we just keep going through the pictures, you can see the bow thrusters, and those bow thrusters are at the front of the ship. There we go, and there's 4 of those. There's 4 tunnels, there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a smaller tunnel just down by the person, so you can see some perspective on what we're talking about there. And that's called an anti-suction tunnel. There's no propeller in that one. But the other ones, you can see the propellers are in the hull, in the tunnel, and that's at the front of the ship, and that's how we parallel park. That's how we move the front of the ship. Okay? Now, a lot of people will claim that Icon is the biggest and the best and all that. But I, here on Harmony of the Seas, do have the world's largest thrusters. I don't care what they have on Icon. I don't care if they're a couple more meters bigger than us. We used to be the world's largest. It's still a little bit fresh. Icon does have 5 bow thrusters, but we won't talk about that. We have the world's largest. And they're pretty incredible to give us the maneuverability needed, because the ship is so big, it's limited in the ports that we can go, and the port's infrastructure doesn't get any bigger. And the other issue with the size of the ship is the weight. If you were to try to lift it up, you'll see displacement maybe on your form there. It's 102,000 tons that we're pushing alongside the pier. Obviously, we cannot touch with any force. So even though the ship is very big, it demands extreme accuracy and control. And this week, we were very much tested in that accuracy and control with the weather that we had to endure. But of course, we'll keep you safe as we've done so far, and we'll continue to do so. Good question, thank you. Next, here we go.
Mike from Houston. I was curious about the number of passengers we have on this cruise, next cruise, and what's the maximum you've ever seen on this ship?
Okay.
And how does that compare to the other Oasis class ships? Can we hold the most, or can other Oasis class ships hold more for some reason or another?
Okay, so on this cruise we have about 6,200 and change. I don't have the number locked in the head there. I think it's 6,239 in that range on board this week. Last week was a little bit less. We had 6,089, so a little bit less. And next week, I don't know, I'm going home. So I'm going home on Sunday. I'm going to go back to Canada, shovel some snow. But for this time of year, it's typical to be in that 6,300 range. The most that we can take is 8,880 is the total amount of people on board. So 6,780 is the maximum amount of guests. The closest we came was during the holiday season, the Christmas and New Year's cruise, where we were just about 40 or 50 off of that number there. It's the same limitation for all the Oasis class ships. Okay? You may see some deviation, but I'm going to get a little technical and weird. There is a deviation if you're on a short voyage and you're not sailing more than 200 nautical miles from a port of refuge, then you can up that number. And it's all limited by the amount of life-saving capacity that we have on board. We have to have 125% life-saving capacity for the total amount of people that we can carry on board. And of that life-saving capacity, 75% must be allocated to the guests. So that's for the pinnacles. It doesn't go by your crew status at all. On this voyage, at this number, when we're at 6,300, all of the guests are accommodated in the lifeboats. We have 18 lifeboats, 370 people per lifeboat is what we can fit in. Okay. Very honest. Continue. Yes.
Yeah, Justin, I'm from Utah. Thank you. I was wondering, what's the most stressful part of your job? Like, you have to throw people in the brig, is it landing? Every time we dock, the idea that you might ruin the entire ship with coming in too quickly. And how much are you involved in landing the ship? Like, I imagine you're not actually the one controlling the thrusters, but you're probably giving the orders about how much power to give it and stuff like that.
So yeah, the most stressful part of the job, I would have to say, is making the decision to cancel the voyage. Because understanding the expectations, understanding the reason why we're here, is easy if the wind is blowing 50 knots. It's a simple no, right? We have limitations, but those limitations are determined by the captain because of your personal capabilities. Yes, I am the one docking the ship and manipulating the controllers. I'm also in charge for developing the future talent. So when the weather conditions are good, depending on the officer, we will allow a chief officer, a three-stripe officer, the staff captain who has to be fully capable. He'll do some of the docking. So this week, the chief officer did the docking in Roboton and Cozumel, and the staff captain did the docking in Costa Maya. Because I'm blessed with extremely talented individuals on board. I was mentioning about the conditions and being gentle. The conditions were tough this week. It was challenging. There was a lot of swell in Costa Maya, but I'm blessed to have people in their careers who are ready for the next step. So I'm able to work with them and have that level of trust. They're also coachable individuals, which says everything. But we have to be extremely cautious. That's the most difficult thing is canceling the protocol. Hurricanes, people always talk about hurricanes. There's so much technology out there monitoring them that we do have great support to deal with that. The ones that are difficult are these cold fronts that are coming through. And maybe it's not captured by the weather data, and all of a sudden you're adapting to changing situations. Now we know when it's likely to occur that the wind can blow or the fog rolls in or something like that. But it's that unknown. So always operating in a threshold of safety that allows you to adapt is kind of our mantra here on board. And more so on a bigger ship because it's like driving an 18-wheeler versus a Ferrari. The Radiance class are what we call Ferraris. They can just get up and go. For us, there's a lot of momentum, and although I have a lot of power, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm joking, but it's true. Spider-Man said it, right? All right, good. Next question. There we go.
I'm Kylie from North Dakota.
Welcome.
Have you ever seen a pirate ship?
A pirate ship? I have, yeah. Right there. He's right there. No, not a real pirate ship. I've been looking for pirate ships and mermaids my whole career. I haven't seen them yet, so. But you let me know, okay? You give me a call. 911 if you see a pirate ship. Thanks.
Yes, Kay from Texas.
Oh, there you are.
So I love the Lord, I love the harmony because
Yes.
of the slides. I know you're leaving in 2026.
I'm leaving tomorrow, but yeah. The ship will leave.
When are y'all coming back
So what's going to happen is, you're right, March 2026, the ship will leave Galveston, and Symphony will be replacing us. Did you have more? More questions?
Yes.
I kind of interrupted.
When did you say this is coming back?
Symphony. Symphony of the Seas is coming back. So we will go to Europe. The reason we're going to Europe is every 5 years the ship has to go out of the water and do what we call a dry dock. And during that time, we take the opportunity to do some maintenance and repair, some upgrades, make the ship viable for another 5 years, depending on what the market demands are for various entertainment, food, whatever it may be. We will go to Cadiz to do that, and right now it's slotted for 42 days. And after we leave Cadiz, we will be going to Europe and sail out of Barcelona, doing cruises there. I'm sure it's already been posted, but if not, I'm in a lot of trouble. But it doesn't matter, I'm going home tomorrow anyways.
Is that going to have the slides, and also do you ever use the helicopter deal that's right up front?
Okay, yeah, so the Symphony does have water slides. Symphony was built after us. Their solarium, you know, our solarium has like this thin film, see-through film, and it kind of makes a bit of noise. On the Symphony, they have glass there. And when we go to dry dock, we're going to get that kind of replaced and upgraded to something a little bit more pleasant. The helipad that we have, that's a crew area. So some ships you're able to make your way to the heli deck on the other class of ships, but on Oasis class it's kind of closed off, because right below that is a crew area, and behind it is crew areas as well on deck 6. So deck 7 is the flat deck, and below that is crew areas. Do we use it? It's very rare, but it does happen from time to time. It's too hard to say it happens this X amount of frequency, maybe once or twice a year if I was to guess, but it really depends on circumstances. It's not always the option that we're trying to utilize, because there's a lot of risk with a helicopter coming towards the ship and the ship moving. So there's a lot of go, no-goes that we have to go through. I have to first sign off from the ship's perspective, and then the helicopter pilot makes their decision. And then there's also the medical aspect, because we're not doing it just so I can go home. We're doing it usually for a medical evacuation. And the medical team also have to sign off that the guest is in a condition that they can go through the stressors of being lifted up into a helicopter, which is a lot of stressors. So it's not a common occurrence, but of course it does happen sometimes. Where are we? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Rick Jordan, Fort Worth, Texas. Will you describe to us what your quarters are like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's pretty nice. Yeah, absolutely. It's comfortable. You work your way up to the top for a reason. So on deck 12, starboard side, I walk in, and there's enough room for me and the boys. So the boys sleep on a pull-out couch, but I have a separate bedroom with an ensuite and a walk-in closet. And then in the main entrance, when you walk in, there's just a small bathroom there. And there's a little kitchenette, which is open concept into the living room where the pull-out couch is. And there's TV there, and then it leads into my office from that living room area. So it's comfortable enough. It's pretty lonely right now. When the family's on board, not so much.
I'm Alan Tibbins from Nacogdoches, Texas,
All right.
and I'm in the septic system business, and I know it's shitty, but somebody's got to do it. And yes, it smells like money.
I think I know where you're going.
So I'd like to know what you do with all the sewage
Sure.
that's generated, and
Yeah.
where does it go when it gets finished?
Okay. Yeah, so we have a treatment plant. So we have different waste streams is what we call them, and anything going from the medical facility, any of the sinks from the medical facility, and anything going through the toilet system is called black water stream. And that's brought down into storage tanks, and we have an advanced wastewater treatment plant. There are microorganisms that consume the solids. It settles. The water is flowed over to the separate compartment. It's screened, and then it's treated. And they claim that the water is drinkable, but I don't know who they really are and how much I'm going to trust them. But it's clear. The water comes out clear. It's tested, and we get certified by a third party who comes on board and tests this every quarter to make sure that we're in compliance. The solids then can be dried, incinerated, pumped ashore as bioresidue, but mostly it's consumed by these bacteria. The bacteria are very sensitive to chemicals, so the crew are trained and the chemicals used on board are strictly monitored so that we're not disturbing the bacteria. We have a second engineer who's in charge of the whole plant every day, and he's a little crazy about his bacteria, making sure, I think he talks to them and feeds them bacon and sugar and makes sure that they're happy and everything's up and running. But crazy's good in this instance. So, of course, it would be disastrous if it was not operational. So it's a very critical part of keeping the ship moving all the time and having it all on board. The ship doesn't stop, right? So when you all leave in Galveston, it's going to be a couple hours with nobody on board, and new guests come on board, and they also bring their stuff that you were talking about. Yeah, it's actually a very interesting plant on board. It's not anything that would be uncommon to a treatment facility in a large city. Right? That's what we have on board, just to a smaller scale. Good. Next, off to the back there.
Hi, my name's Adele from Toronto.
All right.
My question is just speaking with different staff, they use the term contract. How long is a typical contract?
Okay, so it's dependent on your rank and which department you're working in. So first off, we have to split the ship between the marine side of things, which are the engineers and the officers. They're working on a 1-to-1 contract, which is 10 weeks on, 10 weeks off. On the hotel department side of things, the upper management are working on a 4-month on, 2-month off contract. So most of the division heads, like Corey, the department head, Alistair, the hotel director, the F&B director, all of the upper management are working a 4-and-2 contract. Then, as you work your way down the ranks, you'll be working longer contracts, which could be a 6-month on, 2-month off, 8-month on, 2-month off. We cannot by law go any further than a 10-month contract. So a lot of the crew are asking to extend. They want to do longer contracts to make more money and support their family at home, but legally we will never push them beyond a 10-month contract. Yeah. I lost you. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Dave from St. Louis. Last lady basically just asked my question, but
okay.
I was also going to ask, when you are off, I would assume that whoever the new captain is like the CEO at that time, like you mentioned. I would assume it's that rather than you maintain responsibility when you're off.
Absolutely, yeah. He's a fully licensed captain. His name is Michael Lindberg from Sweden. He's been on this ship 1 contract now. Before that, he's been on Jewel, Freedom, Independence, so you might have run across him before. He's my height, just not as good looking, but that's okay. Hopefully they'll play this while he's on board. No, we're in contact all the time, so even when I'm home, constantly being updated on what's happening on the ship, but it's not so stressful because it's just information sharing. So that when I step back on the ship, as I mentioned, as soon as I'm back on the ship is running. So you have to be up to speed all the time. And personally, between the two of us, we find it's easier just to keep each other updated all the time. So we'll have conversations about once a week and use our WhatsApp or phone calls just to keep each other in the know. Yeah, good. There we go.
I'm Andrew from Wisconsin.
All right.
Now, just going back to the port question, how much sea level do you look for to be able to port safe or dock safely at ports?
Okay, good question. We have to have 1 meter or 3 feet under the keel at berth, so that's when the ship is stationary. When we are transiting, then we have to have 3 meters or 9 feet. And the reason the difference is when we're transiting, when we're moving, the ship will actually sink. It's called squat. So it's a hydrodynamic effect, and it is dependent on the bathymetry or the layout of the underwater land and how close you are to the basin, to the wall. But a ship going through displaces water, and that water has to come back in and fill the void where the ship was. And in doing so, you'll find that a ship will squat or go deeper in the water, and that is a factor of speed as well. So the faster you go, the more squat that you will have. Right now in the Gulf, I mean, we're talking 12,000 feet, even more, maybe 20,000. So no issue here, but once we get closer, we actually do slow the ship down before the pilot area, before the port, because there is a shallow spot where we reduce to 12 knots, and that has to do with the squat effect there as well. But alongside the pier, we only need when the ship is stationary, 1 meter under the keel is fine.
Over here at the top.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
Hi, Elaine Grace from Michigan.
Yep.
I've been sailing since like 2002, a couple, 3 times a year.
Excellent.
And I've done Harmony a few times. This is the best staff I've ever been exposed to.
Oh, thank you so much.
And we're talking from room attendant to the dining to everything.
Excellent.
It's been unbelievable.
Nice to hear that feedback.
But my question is,
But,
other
did
than
you say
this.
but? Turn the microphone on.
There's always a but. No, I got a big one, but.
Tell me.
But anyway, other than the sport pool, if you're trying to do laps, because
Right.
you have the belly flop at 1 o'clock.
Right.
Where's the best place to get some laps in for like an hour plus?
Main pool, I guess, would be the other one. So the sports pool, if it's being filled up, then you only have the beach pool or the main pool.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the beach, I'm looking for
I
the.
think this afternoon you should be all right. It's not so warm out there right now, so
I
it's
know,
not
I
as
got long
busy.
sleeve, long
Yeah,
pants.
yeah.
But you're saying the main pool is
The main
inside
pool,
the
yeah.
sport pool?
It's forward, yeah. You go forward, yeah. Splash, baby splash pool might be a little too shallow for you. But yeah, give that one a go.
All right here at
All
front.
right.
Hi, I'm Noelle from St. Louis, and
Welcome.
we're having a great time. We really love this, and the staff is great.
Excellent.
My question is, what's the most difficult situation you've ever faced, or one of the most?
Okay. Y'all want to hear dark and stormy night story? Are you sure? Oh, all right. Okay. It was a dark and stormy night. I was on Radiance of the Seas, and I was the chief officer of safety, so that was third in command of that ship. It wasn't the night, and it wasn't dark and stormy. But the ship was sailing from Auckland, New Zealand towards Sydney, Australia. If you're familiar with the area, that is a body of water called the Tasman Sea. Now the Tasman Sea in that southern part of the world is very famous for extreme weather. And I mentioned earlier about weather and changing weather. Predictable weather is fine, but changing weather is the one that we're always on our toes about. And why the weather can change so rapidly in the Tasman Sea is because of the landmass. If you just take a look at the geography, the wind can fetch, so it means it's blowing undisturbed over a long period of open ocean, and that can build up swells quickly, and it doesn't get disturbed by mountains or landmass, et cetera, et cetera. So here we were on Radiance of the Seas, and as the third in command, if somebody was to go overboard, it was my duty to be the captain of the rescue boat. Okay, so the little boat that would go in the water and drive the boat, and there would be 2 other crew members with me, an engineer and an able-bodied seaman. So this was actually New Year's Eve. It was 5 p.m., sunny day, weather was good, not much difference than what it was today, but a little bit warmer. And multiple 911 calls came into the bridge, claiming that somebody had jumped overboard from the windjammer. Now on the Radiance of the Seas, the windjammer is back aft on deck 11, and there's an open area at the back there. And what had happened was one of the guests had approached the railing and claimed that they were going to jump overboard. Multiple guests, multiple crew were calling 911 that somebody had jumped overboard. So emergency procedures were initiated. I went to the rescue boat, we launched the rescue boat, and whenever somebody goes overboard, our crew are trained to throw the life rings. And even though it's maybe happened a little bit further back, it's very important that they throw the life rings anyways, because the ship does not stop on a dime. It takes a while for the ship to stop. And when I get launched in the rescue boat, I can go from one life ring to the next life ring to the next life ring. I have a line of position to where the initial situation would have occurred. So that's what I was doing. We were down in the water, driving the rescue boat, picking up life ring to life ring to life ring, and making it to the last life ring. Now when you go to the last life ring, then we are trained in search patterns. We do a sector search or parallel search, it doesn't matter. Some way to systematically expand around that area so that you cover everything and you don't miss anything. And of course, we're looking for a person in the water. Now, as we were going from life ring to life ring, the weather started to deteriorate. The wind started to pick up, and with that, the swell started to pick up. And it's fine because these lifeboats or these rescue boats are designed for these conditions. We are trained to drive them in these conditions. But it just so happened at this time, one of the waves broke on top of us, and the boat stayed stable and upright, but all of our equipment got wiped out. So I lost communication with Radiance of the Seas, which was the mothership. Once again, these things can happen. Not supposed to, but can happen, and it did. And we're trained to carry out the mission. Proceed with the instructions, which is to search and rescue somebody in the water. Meanwhile, while I'm out there on the small boat doing a search pattern, the waiter is up on deck 11 aft on Radiance in the windjammer, and he sees the guest approach the railing and start to climb up. And he creeps forward, just like a movie, to be honest. Creeps forward, "Sir, we love you. You're our favorites. We'll make you pinnacle, whatever you need. You know, free internet." We didn't really have internet back then, but and he got close enough that he was able to actually tackle him and pull him on the ship. So he never ended up going overboard. But, as I just previously mentioned, I lost communication. So I made a decision because I had no support from the mothership, from the captain on the Radiance of the Seas, and things just weren't feeling right. And it's one thing that I will forever remember and I instill in my officers is trust what I call your belly barometer. Things don't feel right, that means something probably isn't right. Trust your instincts is what we tell them all the time. And it wasn't feeling right for me. We were going up and I could see Radiance of the Seas, and then we were going back down and I couldn't see the ship anymore. And it was just one of those moments in my career I believe I had to go through in order to gain the respect and true understanding of the power of the ocean, and to understand how quickly it can change and never underestimate that power. And in that moment, I was a small boat on the ocean sending big waves into motion. Just like a single word. Have y'all seen Columbus or what? Huh? Some of you there? All right. I'm splitting the generations there, so that's a song from Columbus, but it's very true. I joke just to bring some light to the situation. It was a positive outcome. We brought our rescue boat back, we lifted up, everyone was okay. So that's why I don't mind sharing that story, but that will forever be ingrained in me, and I think is a true key aspect of my success here with this company, and comfort with our crew, making sure we always have the highest safety standards on board. Good. Next. Carry one more. We're out of time.
Well, we're kind of out of time. Is it a quick question?
No.
Sherry from Florida.
All right.
I'll lighten it up a little.
Sure, no problem.
You started your career with Royal Caribbean.
Yeah.
State. Is that typical? Do most staff, executive staff, join a cruise line and then stay with it?
Yep. Every single month we do crew recognition, and I have the honor of presenting to crew members with their years of service. And it's incredible how many 25, 30-year service awards we are handing out to crew time and time again. So there is a lot. Our Captain Johnny, if you've ever sailed with Captain Johnny, he was here. Yeah, a round of applause for him for sure. Because he is 50 years in the company and he just retired. So he's breaking our hearts, but what an incredible experience that he has. And he's taught me and so many of the other officers. So I hope to follow a little bit in those footsteps. They're Norwegian, so they're a little weird, but I'll try. But yes, it is part of the company's culture is people are willing and wanting to remain with the company for many years.